Australian Airlines are feeling the pinch as the industry braces for massive job cuts amid the crisis. There are now calls for government intervention to prevent the aviation industry from collapse. Let's bring in aviation editor for the Australian, Geoffrey Thomas. Jeff, thank you. Good to see you. Nobody knows the aviation industry better than you do. What's going to happen here? What does the government need to do to keep the airlines afloat?
Look, I think the government needs to send a very clear message to the wider community that Virgin Australia and Qantas will not collapse, because they will guarantee whatever loans they need to take out to ensure their continued operation. I mean, both airlines have got substantial cash anyway. I mean, Qantas has got nearly $3 billion in cash and undrawn reserves. Virgin's got less, but still a very substantial amount, over $1 billion. But at the same time, you know, they must look at the domino effect here. If people fear that the airline is going to collapse, they won't make a booking, they won't go to Cairns, they won't go to Uluru, they won't go anywhere. So the government needs to, and therefore all those tourism operators in all those places are going to fail. So the government needs to look at the beginning of the domino and say that domino is not going to collapse. At the same time, with the banks, they've got to say, as we did with the GFC, the banks are going to be guaranteed by the government. So the banks can then give some more latitude to tourism operators and other businesses around Australia to continue operation.
Because this is much worse, isn't it, than what we've seen during the GFC, September 11, when airlines really struggled, but this is looking to be more prolonged as a problem.
Well, it is, and one of the issues, OK, we've got the pandemic itself and the virus, and there's varying opinions as to what we should do or not do. But the other dynamic we're dealing with, which is unprecedented, is the wider panic in the community. And we just need some very, very strong leadership to say these things are not going to happen. You can book with absolute assuredness that you can take a break and go to Tasmania. If you're going to have to take a couple of weeks off work, well, then you can go here or go there. And you also, people need security that their mortgages aren't going to be, you know, run into strife if they have to take some pain as far as you know, unpaid leave is concerned. So there's a couple of dynamics there where the government needs to step in.
For people thinking about jumping on a flight, there is a fear about the hygiene levels on planes. The unions have been very critical of the way Qantas has handled that. Should we be worried, or are you fully confident that the hygiene methods being undertaken by Qantas crew, cleaning staff, are up to scratch?
I believe they are up to scratch. As far as the air is concerned on an aeroplane, it's essentially replaced every 2 or 3 minutes. Now, people will say, well, no, you can't breathe on top of Mount Everest. Well, no, you can't. That's because of the air pressure. But on an aeroplane, the air is drawn into through various systems. It's compressed so you can breathe it, and then pumped into the cabin. So yes, the air is absolutely fresh, and there has been no reported coronavirus spread from passenger to passenger on an aeroplane. So you are incredibly safe. But one of the things the airlines could do, for instance, on the smaller planes like the 737, which is 3 and 3, say to everybody, right, we're not selling the middle seat. And you've got that, you know, you've got that shoulder room.
Sure, because we're being told 1.5 metres, which is very difficult to maintain on a plane.
It is indeed, but you are very, very safe on an aeroplane, and I'd fly tomorrow, absolutely.
How are the other big global airlines handling the crisis?
They're all doing it tough. Cathay Pacific has grounded 75% of its fleet, Lufthansa 70% of its fleet, but a lot of the world's airlines are actually government-owned. Etihad, Qatar, Emirates, Singapore through Temasek, Air New Zealand as the majority control is the New Zealand government. So governments are already in there with a lot of the major airlines of the world, and that's why we need our government to step in and say, well, we're guaranteeing Qantas and we're guaranteeing Virgin Australia.
I have seen concerns from people who have big amounts of frequent flyers, that they should be looking to spend them in some capacity, whether it's through buying products through the Qantas website or whatever it is. Do you expect a rush on people trying to get rid of and use those frequent flyers?
Well, look, absolutely. After the toilet paper fiasco, which is ongoing, I expect all of those sorts of things to happen, which is good in a way because people are using up the points. So yes, and if you've got a lot of points, jump on a plane and go use them.
Geoffrey Thomas, always good to speak with you. Thanks for your insights.
Pleasure, Ash.